Hi guys, good morning, afternoon, evening. Welcome back to another episode. Episode 4, the Dream Big, Series 2, Prep. As you can probably tell by the title, today's topic of talking, the logbook, or the Bible, or my training partner, I like to call him. I'm just going to talk a bit about, is it necessary to have a logbook or log your sessions or log anything really in terms of your plan? Well, let's not go that far. Let's just keep it towards training. Logging training, is it necessary? Should you do it? Does it help? What are the benefits? Or are there, what are the cons, pros and cons of logbooking? Because I haven't really seen many videos out there about actual logbooking. I'm not going to go into too much specifics. I'm just going to use my experience and what I've learned over like the past 8 years, 9 years I've been bodybuilding. And just try and share that, I think. Tell you what I've learned about logbooking and if it's helped me in terms of making progression in training and bodybuilding in general. So yeah, let's get stuck in. I don't want to keep you for too long. But like I said, it's just going to be based on my experiences, what I've learned. I've used a logbook since I was 17. So pretty much the first year I stepped foot in the gym, I had a little logbook. At the time, it was like a little pad about that big that I used to write my sessions in. Now it's obviously upgraded to the most expensive notebook there is online. But I started from a young age, 17, logging my sessions. And ever since then, I've logged every single session I can think of. I have a stack of logbooks at home of every year that I've been training with my numbers in, with my progression in, and all that jazz. And I think the first thing I can say first off is when you're getting started into lifting, when you're getting started into the gym, and you kind of don't really know what to do. I was going off my own back at the start when I was 17, 18. Well, up till I was about 19, 20. I was going off my own back. Researching, just getting into bodybuilding. I've mentioned on here before that I followed Jay Cutler's plan, which was on bodybuilding.com. I followed that to a T, nutrition-wise, training-wise. Obviously not the amounts, but just how he structured his training and nutrition. So I used to write down his sessions from the computer onto the logbook and do that. And obviously when it updated, I would change it and so on. So I followed that for like probably 2 years, and logged, every session, what I was doing, what rep ranges I was doing, how many sets I was doing, what weight I got up to for that day. I didn't really know much about progressive overload at that point. Well, I didn't know anything about progressive overload at that point. So it was kind of just get stronger when I got stronger. Obviously, when you're at that age, 17, 18, you kind of just want to lift and enjoy it, have fun, and you naturally see progression in strength over that period of time. Till I was about 20, and I moved over to somewhat of a strength phase for about 2 years, where I focused a lot on squat, bench, and deadlift, and then did, not random accessories after, but I would pick and choose accessories for maybe 1 month to like 3 to 4 months at a time. Do those set accessories and then switch it up a bit. But my squat, bench, deadlift would stay put for the 2 years that I followed this strength phase, more like power bodybuilding. Power bodybuilding. I was watching a lot of Michael Hearn, so I got stuck into that kind of rut of focusing on your main lifts and then working on accessories afterwards. which I'm not gonna lie, built a lot of strength. I got my squat to about, about 210, I think I got, about 210. I was doing a lot of box squats, like very, very low box squats, pausing at the bottom, with 160 to 180 for about 6 to 8 reps. And that was when I was like 18, 19, obviously natural. Deadlift, I got that up to 240 for 6. And bench, I got up to, I never touched never touched 180, but I got very close. I tried very hard to get to 180, but it didn't happen. But what I'm getting to at is that in that strength period, logbooking became a very, very big part of my life. Obviously working with strength, you want to increase numbers and increase strength over every single week and reps and sets. So the logbook became everything to me in terms of those 3 main movements. I think that's where I kind of got attached to the logbook. Was that kind of style of training. Was I focused on strength a lot, and obviously jotting down numbers, making sure I know what I need to hit for the next week in terms of if that's getting a rep each week, if that's adding a 1.25 kilo or a 0.25 kilo to a bar. It would all be in my logbook and it would all be set out for the week ahead. So, I would write out my week, I would write out my following week with the numbers that I need to hit, and then it would just be a case of ticking boxes. So I was ticking boxes from a very young age, and I still tick boxes now. Like my book now is just full of ticks of what I've done in terms of progression. But that's kind of where my not obsession, but it's where I started logbooking seriously. And then obviously once I came out of that kind of strength period of 2 years, moved into more hypertrophy bodybuilding style when I was 22. I was obviously still doing a lot. The power bodybuilding approach was the 3 main lifts. Obviously one day you do your bench, you focus on that for the first set, for the first movement, and then I'd work on some more bodybuilding stuff after that. So I was already doing bodybuilding related movements, but I kind of obviously wanted to move into bodybuilding more and kind of not leave the strength phase away, but move into bodybuilding more and more seriously. So and I took my logbook into that bodybuilding training, and it's been in ever since as today. But I mean, to go into like the benefits of logbooking is staying on track, staying on track with yourself and not letting yourself slip up. Like I mentioned before, writing out my sessions. Like today, Sunday, I will at some point today or tomorrow write out my sessions for the week with the numbers that I need to hit, and have that all written down in pen as well, which, believe it or not, makes a big difference. You can't rub out pen. So if you don't hit a lift, you know about it, it's written down in the logbook. You have to say not hit, or I normally put a cross or something, which very, very, very rarely happens. In my off season, when we're pushing food, pushing weight, I can honestly say, swear to God, that I've never missed a lift. I would never let myself miss a lift. The phrase from Jordan Peters, "do not miss," kind of stuck in my head when I first started watching his videos and listening to him. The phrase "do not miss" is written actually in the beginning of my logbook. If you can see that, I've written that in my logbook ever since I kind of came across that and just liked it, and it just stuck in my head, and it's something that I kind of go into every session with the mindset of doing. And that's kind of the basis of it all, is not missing a set, not missing a rep, not missing some sort of progression. And that's how I kind of follow that. And the logbook helps with that massively because it's all written down for you. If you're training by yourself, this is like your training partner. It tells you what to do for the next set, tells you what to do in terms of movements, everything. And I know some people are gonna have different opinions on this. I know people have different opinions on this. Like you should just be able to come in and train, and as long as you train hard and take things to failure, that's enough. But I like to be detailed, I like to be meticulous about things, I like to write things down. I like to follow a plan. I don't kind of like to come in and feel, and go, I know some people come in and go, how do I feel today? Okay, I feel a bit tired, so I'll take a bit of weight off this. I didn't get enough sleep last night, so I'm gonna only do one set on here. When the logbook's in, it doesn't really matter how you feel, to me. You come in and get the session done. Whatever it says in the logbook, it gets done. Whether you're tired or feeling 100%, it gets done, it gets ticked off. Now that might not be the best approach, but in terms of me and my mentality, that kind of goes hand in hand, to where, if I do have a late night, if I have a dinner one evening, like last night, for example, I got home at 12 at night and I was up at 4:30 this morning for cardio. If I had training this morning, the logbook would still have to be hit. I think it just doesn't, it leaves any reason for you to make an excuse. These numbers have to be hit. They're written down in the logbook, so they have to be ticked off. And that's, in my opinion, that's what I followed, and it's worked. In terms of making progress, in terms of packing on the tissue we've packed on, for me, it's worked. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to use this for the rest of my bodybuilding career or journey. It might come a point where I might scrap the logbook. You never know. But it plays a part in my sessions at the moment, and I know a lot of people use them at the moment as well. And I know there's people out there that kind of think the starter pack for bodybuilding now is a tripod and a logbook, knee sleeves and stuff like that. So I know people are against it, but I like to just be structured with everything I do in bodybuilding in my day. And it takes a lot of stress away from me because I know exactly what I'm doing in the session, I know exactly what numbers I'm hitting, exactly what sets I'm hitting. It's just a case of ticking the boxes. So we'll move on to some cons of logbooking, which I'm not gonna lie, I have come across in the past and actually in the present. When moving into prep, obviously we reach a point in the off season where everything's ticking over nicely, hitting all numbers, nothing's going wrong, progressing each week, and then you hit the first week of prep or second week of prep / third week of prep, food's going down, we're starting to obviously drop fat, food's going down, cardio's going up, so output's going up. Training, obviously my overall goal for training is to match numbers through prep, is to hold my off-season numbers for as long as I can. Last year, for an example, I held my off-season numbers till about 6 weeks out. That was over a 23-week prep, and the logbook definitely helped with that. But this year, with the amount we've kind of cut that prep in half pretty much from what we're doing, because we started this prep in a good condition, in a good place, in terms of we didn't need to spend as much time in prep, which obviously means we can spend more time growing in a growing phase. So we were quite aggressive at the start point of prep, aggressive at the point where we dropped through quite a lot, put cardio in, pushed it up to 5 days a week, which meant weight dropped off pretty fast, which meant for me training took a bit of a lag. And the cons of having a logbook is obviously those numbers are set in stone. Those numbers that I'll put in place, and if numbers aren't hit, I know I said I never miss a beat at all, but obviously this is new experience for me. This is a different prep, a different way of doing things, being quite aggressive with weight loss, and it will play a part in training. Like I said, I can honestly say in off season I never missed a beat. In terms of training, I never missed a set and always progressed. Prep is a slightly different story. It's all going to depend on how the body reacts to what you're doing in prep, and with how aggressive we were in the rate of weight loss. I had to kind of work around training in a different fashion, not completely. I'm saying this because there was like 1 or 2 movements that I wasn't matching, and I did have to take weight off, which kills me to say that. but I did have to take load off, and it was more overhead pressing movements more than anything. Anyone who's gone through prep will notice that probably more than likely the first movements that do take a hit are your pressing movements, overhead stuff. For me, overhead stuff, or your push days will take a hit. You know, legs and back I can hold on throughout the whole prep. That's no problem. It's more pressing. So, and having a logbook, having to write down in your logbook that you've taken weight off or you've lowered the weight, for me is very disheartening. It's very disheartening. So there comes a part, I think, with a logbook, you've got to kind of obviously train your mental side as well of how to deal with that. And for me, I don't take it very well. I'm still trying to work on it to this day. It's probably the one hard thing that I find about bodybuilding is that mental side of switching from off season to prep and seeing numbers not going in the way that I want it to, and just not feeling as stable and as strong in a set, just feeling a bit more vulnerable, which I don't really like. So for me, going forward, it's just about managing that, knowing that strength is not everything. At the end of the day, weight moves weight. If weight's coming off the body, realistically, are you going to be able to lift the same numbers in your growing phase as you are midway towards the end of prep? Probably not. I'm talking in terms of like pushing movements as well. I think you can, like I said, stick onto pulling legs. But they're just, you know, that's one of the cons that I've come across with logbooking. I don't think there's as many. I think in terms of like, can you progress without a logbook or having a logbook? Yes, you can. You can progress. We've seen it. The pros on the Olympic stage, do they carry logbooks around? No, they don't. You know, the only person I know who carries a logbook around, a pro, off the top of my head, Hunter the Brada. I know he logs his sessions, but there's many people, pros out there, who don't log their sessions and obviously doing very, very well in bodybuilding. So I think it's a very personal opinion. You don't have to logbook if you don't want to. Does it help progression? Yeah, it does. It helps with my progression. That's just what I feel like. But I don't think it's an overarching thing. And like I said, there might come a time in my, you know, maybe next off season where I don't log. I don't see that happening, but it might happen. So, you know, as long as you're training to failure, as long as you're taking intensity as hard as you can, that's all that really matters. And you know, we kind of know our lifts, our movements. After you do this for a few years, you kind of know what you're doing on everything. You're not going to see some movement skyrocket up in terms of strength. Everything's going to stay pretty much along the lines of the same thing. There's just minute details that I can get from this, like adding 0.25s and just remembering that, and how many reps I got on something, and what I need to do for the following week to progress. So, but there's obviously many different ways in terms of progression that we can do. It's not just strength, execution, which I'll write in here as well. I'll write in here, say for like, I'm looking at the hammer strength press right now. Say I got a set for 12, and I filmed it, didn't look as good, didn't feel as good. I will write in there, improve on execution, progress on execution, which I'll put into next week. So it just allows me to cue things and allows me to kind of not have to think. That's quite a big thing as well. Not having to think about anything in terms of training, just coming in, looking down, seeing what needs to hit, bang, let's go, on to the next one, tick. That's kind of how I kind of use it right now. So yeah, I think I've covered all I really need to cover, to be honest. But the bottom line is, as long as you're training as hard as you can with full intensity, seeing progression over a period of time, and kind of knowing that, whether you use a logbook or not, don't think really matters. It's just a personal opinion. So we'll leave it there, guys. 20 minutes, not too bad. Yeah, that's episode 4. We'll see you for episode 5 next week.